A dominant force in Colorado politics is leaving his job after a string of defeats. Dudley Brown has been a big reason that Colorado's Republicans have moved to the right, while the rest of the state has moved to the left in recent years. Leading the Rocky Mountain gun owners, Brown backed a series of ultra-conservative Republicans, often willing to lose GOP-held seats if that meant not having to compromise. 9 News Politics guide Marshall Zellinger reports on the oversized impact of this unelected political leader.
Does not preclude.
You've seen Dudley Brown on Next many times. You've not seen the new executive director of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, Taylor Rhodes.
Our members want less government. Our members want less gun control. We're going to fight for our members every step of the way.
A difficult task in a state with a Democratic governor and Democratic-controlled state House and Senate.
I think our conservative leadership has done a pretty good job down at the Capitol, and I hope we can elect more conservatives like those folks.
RMGO tried last week in the Republican primaries, but in the 4 state House districts colored red, northern Colorado and part of Jefferson County, and in 1 Senate district in northern Colorado, the Republicans who won were the ones RMGO spent money to defeat. You spent considerable money trying to get these candidates to lose. They won. Despite that, and somehow RMGO is claiming victory?
That's an odd way to spin it, Marshall, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. The candidates that we supported may have come up short. Our program won, and if they don't vote pro-gun in the General Assembly, if they are elected in November, then they will be held accountable by Rocky Mountain gun owners.
2 RMGO-supported candidates did win. One is Perry Buck, who was in a primary for Weldon County Commissioner. The other is State Representative Dave Williams, who did not have an opponent in his primary, so in the contested races, they were 1 and 5. Kyle, as you know, we've talked about RMGO a lot in the last 13 months, none of it news that they prefer to hear about. June 2019, it was the $45,000 spent in a failed effort to recall State Representative Tom Sullivan. In March, they lost a lawsuit to try to challenge how the state House passed the red flag legislation. And last month, it was the challenge, the 7-year challenge to try to find unconstitutional the state's large capacity magazine ban, which the state Supreme Court upheld.
So, Marshall, obviously, you know, they raise money, then use that money in support of candidates. Do we get any sense of whether the fact that Rocky Mountain gun owners and Dudley Brown has gotten run out of the gym in game after game after game has dampened people's enthusiasm to give him money?
Not yet, necessarily. And as you heard Taylor Rhodes say, if these candidates they didn't support at least still support pro-gun legislation, it's a victory in their book. One thing would be telling is who will be the leader of the Republicans at the state House. If it changes, perhaps from House Minority Leader Patrick Neville to someone not in line with RMGO, that could be telling.
All right. Another medal-winning report from our Marshall Zellinger. Thank you, Marshall. So why does the city of Denver care if the city of Aurora have a public mask mandate? Well, let me put it to you this way. Why does a homeowner in the foothills care if their neighbor does fire mitigation on their property? Well, of course, that's obvious, because fires and viruses spread easily if you're not doing the simple common sense things to prevent that. Tri-County Health Department is suggesting a mask ordinance today after mayors from around the area, not in Tri-County Health necessarily, urged them to please do this for the good of the region. It's tough to call what they did today a mandate, given the fact that they are allowing any municipality in Adams, Arapahoe, or Douglas County to opt out of the mask order. Douglas County's Republican leaders threatened to fire Tri-County over previous public health orders, so it's pretty safe to say that Douglas County is going to opt out of the mask order. So we told you that we needed to wait to call it a trend when it came to Colorado's COVID-19 numbers. Since hitting our lowest total hospitalizations during the outbreak back on June 27th, we can now firmly tell you that we are on an upward trajectory in terms of hospitalizations in our state. 184 people currently being treated in the hospital, 33 discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. So we highlight hospitalizations more than we do confirmed cases, and that's because hospitalizations weeds out the people who have tested positive and who are asymptomatic or maybe just have a mild case of coronavirus. But let's look at those new case numbers today, just because with the trend line of hospitalizations going up, this gives us an idea, the temperature of the water, so to speak, the potential for these non-hospital COVID-19 patients to spread it to somebody who will get a bad case and will end up needing treatment. Colorado added 400 new cases today. Second day in a row, we've been over 400 new cases. The 7-day moving average of new cases in Colorado is just shy of 300 a day. Colorado's largest COVID-19 testing center closed early for the second straight day. It's a sign of the high demand for tests. Some good news there, though. The city of Denver just told me that they have resolved their supply issue with tests. Remember, a week ago, Colorado couldn't get all the tests that it wanted, or Denver couldn't get all the tests that it wanted because of the need in Arizona and Texas and Florida. That's been resolved, but they're still capping the number of tests at the Pepsi Center at 2,000 a day. Here's the reason why. So we call Pepsi Center a testing site. It's really not. It's a specimen collection site. The actual testing is done someplace else, and that's where they have set that capacity cap because they want to be able to turn results around to people in 5 days or less. So statewide, Colorado processed more than 7,000 tests Tuesday. 8th straight day states processed more than 6,000 tests. There are some police departments out there that really fight against scrutiny and outside investigation. The Commerce City Police Department welcomed it, and they never got it. This was an unusual move, big news 4 years ago when Commerce City PD invited the Justice Department to come in and take a closer look. That investigation never happened because of national politics. Our Steve Steger found a police chief in Commerce City frustrated because he says they just want to do better.
It's no secret. The department was having a bunch of challenges.
In 2016, Commerce City police were making headlines in a bad way. An officer shot himself and tried to blame it on a driver he stopped. Another officer convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women during traffic stops.
I believe some of our council members characterized it as a culture of misconduct.
Shortly thereafter, Commerce City asked the Justice Department to investigate
And earn that trust back in the public.
We covered that news conference, promising a report in 6 to 8 months. Then the story stopped.
They gathered up quite a bit of information.
Current Police Chief Clint Nichols says the investigation was moving along well. Then administrations changed, and the DOJ stopped these kinds of reviews of police departments.
And they informed us that, sorry for the mishap, but all of the information we collected, you're not going to receive anything from the Department of Justice.
You heard that right. They never got the results.
So not receiving it was a bit of a letdown.
In the end, the feds issued no report, made no suggestions on how to fix the department. Chief Nichols said all they could do was ask for guidance in specific areas, which they did, and got some help reforming their use of force policy, revamping sexual assault investigations, and improving the way officers interact with community members and victims of crime. And because the spotlight was gone, the chief says all of that work went relatively unnoticed.
We did a lot of work to reform the police department. We did a lot of work providing some transparency, and we didn't get not 1 second look.
Progress? Sure. But the chief says the report would have had more power.
There would have been a lot more public scrutiny surrounding adhering to the standards that they put in place.
Nichols says should the feds change course and offer another look, he would certainly welcome it.
This is all designed to make us better on the back end. And how would we not want to participate in that?
Now, the difference between the investigation in Commerce City and then the possible federal review of the Aurora Police Department is that Commerce City asked for it. And last week, the FBI acknowledged that they are looking into 2 separate things inside the Aurora Police Department. 1, the investigation into Elijah McClain, and 2, that case of officers who took pictures at the site where McClain struggled with police. I checked in with the DOJ again this morning to see the status of that, see if they're ready to call it an actual investigation. They would not comment any further. Kyle.
Yeah, certainly respect Commerce City's effort in saying we're open to an outside look.
Yeah, and they say they've done a lot of work in the last 4 years, and they say really a lot of that hasn't been highlighted because typically only things get highlighted when you've got a list of here's what's wrong and here's how we fixed it. That they would like some people to see that they've actually made some progress and they still have work to do. And the chief, as you heard, said he would be open if the feds did eventually want to come back in and look again.
Are you wearing a tie today? Because I trolled you yesterday for wearing a polo shirt.
Yes, 100%. That's why I'm wearing the tie and the jacket and the shirt.
I figured that. All right. Good job, Steve. Thank you. Greenwood Village City Council voted unanimously last night on a resolution that the city is going to defend any police officer who ends up potentially personally liable under Colorado's new police reform law. Will cover their court costs for them. This new law holds an officer partially responsible if it's found that they didn't act in good faith in their job or if they didn't have a reasonable belief that they were following the law. Some Denver City Council members a while back called for the city to set up approved camping sites for the homeless. Today, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock called those council members bluff by asking each of them where in their districts they want a camping site. Letter was sent to every member of council who expressed support for urban camping sites. It tells each of the 8 city councilors who originally wrote to him that they need to find at least one site in their own district. Said ideally be a property about 10,000 square feet. Enough for 60 people, 50 tents, spaced out, more room for restrooms, showers, common area. These sites would operate as long as the public health orders are in place for the pandemic. We've reached out to city council members to ask how they plan to respond to this. All right. Time for the best part of the week. This is our weekly group project that we kick off every Wednesday, turning $5 from a whole bunch of Next viewers into a multiple for good for nonprofits in our community. We're approaching $250,000 raised from our segment, A Word of Thanks. And the word of thanks that comes to mind when I think about the STAR program is lives. Because I am absolutely convinced that this new pilot program in Denver is going to save lives. If you talk to police or you talk to protesters these days, one of the few things that they agree upon is that far too often police officers are being used like social workers. They're being called on to respond to mental health situations in which an armed response is not the best idea. We also know that misunderstandings and wrong moves in those situations can escalate and cost lives. So in comes Denver's brand new support team assisted response. This is STAR. This is a pilot program where 911 dispatchers have the option to dispatch a mental health professional and a paramedic instead of sending an armed officer. So they handle non-criminal calls like a mental health crisis or an overdose. And they're able to meet people with what they actually need in that moment. I mean, medical health, mental health help. And it helps to keep those calls out of the hands of police officers who will readily tell you that they are not the ones best equipped to handle those situations. So far, in their first month, they've gone on 136 calls, and not a single one has escalated to a law enforcement response. This is in partnership, Denver Police with community partners, including the Mental Health Center of Colorado. Our support is going to allow them to expand what they can do to better serve people. It's going to keep citizens and police officers safe. Try and make sure that those situations don't escalate in a needless way. I really feel like this is one criminal justice reform idea that everybody can get behind. So I'm asking you to join me in doing just that. If you text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, we'll send you the link to donate. Same ask as every week. If you're in for $5, I'm in to match the first 50 of those $5 donations. We're coming up on the $250,000 mark through Word of Thanks. Let's show them some support tonight. President Trump wants schools to reopen to in-person classes for the fall, no matter what his own public health experts say.
I'm very nervous about it, but I think that it's necessary.
Let's talk to teachers in Colorado.
Yesterday, I spent my day writing my will.
Their perspectives, next.
97 degrees in Denver today, 7 days out of the month of July with 90 or better. No signs this pattern will be changing. With the warmth, the lack of moisture and the wind, extreme fire danger, red flag warnings posted for half the state. In Denver for tonight, partly cloudy and 58 degrees, a dry night, a warm day tomorrow, back to the mid 90s. We go close to 100 on Friday and Monday, but a shift in the pattern early next week means the ridge flattens out. We see a slow cooling trend and maybe a chance for showers.
Your feedback guides this program each and every day, and your feedback this week has been clear. You want to see fewer stories for humans and more stories for dogs. So I present to you for a third consecutive day, Next for Dogs.
Good evening. I'm Steve Steger, and this is Jack. We, the cat fanciers on the Next staff, have taken back this segment from Kyle and his flagrant anti-cat bias. So now we present to you Next for Cats.
Politicians, principals, and parents have had a lot to say about the idea of resuming in-class learning come fall. Today, two teachers with different perspectives about going back to school and some shared concerns.
Right now, I feel very nervous about going back. My name is Amanda Garner. I'm a fourth grade teacher in Jefferson County Public Schools. I don't feel like it's going to be safe. I don't feel like we can keep our kids safe. And I feel like there's more risk than is worth taking.
I'm very nervous about it, but I think that it's necessary. I'm Troy Hubble. I'm coming from Denver Public Schools to Adams 12, and I teach elementary special education. You know, in terms of teachers, I think I'm in the minority opinion. People are nervous and they're scared. The connection between a student and the teacher emotionally is vital to the learning process. The structure that school provides and the predictability and the safety that provides for our kids is vital to the learning process.
If the decision to stay remote had been made in spring, we would have spent the majority of our summer working to make sure the remote experience was better for students.
I don't particularly feel safe about returning to schools and a place where we're going to pack a lot of people into small spaces.
Yesterday I spent my day writing my will, because if the worst happens when we go back and I get sick and I end up in the hospital and I die, I want to make sure those details are figured out.
I think that we're in a lose-lose situation. I think we have to go back. I think we have to make it as safe as possible, and we have to have a concrete plan about what this looks like and how we know when to close again and how we're going to take care of people.
There is no one good answer here. Above academics, above social emotional growth, above economic decisions, the value needs to be on human life.
Curious about your take as well. We're always listening. That's how we fill out your feedback. Next. Our Word of Thanks group project this week is supporting Denver's new STAR program. It's this great option for 911 dispatchers where instead of sending an armed officer to a mental health call, they can send a mental health professional and a paramedic. I'm telling you, this is going to save lives. We can support and expand the program. Text THANKS to 303-871-1491. We'll send you the link to donate. I kick in every week as well. Penny says, this new team brought tears to my eyes. I was a mental health crisis worker. I know this works. Listen to Penny. See you next time.